Hey everyone, if you've got a Coldcard hardware wallet, you need to stop everything right now and watch. Several $1 million in Bitcoin was just swept off the blockchain. And here's what makes this one different from every other hack you've heard about. The people who lost it did everything right. They used a hardware wallet, they kept it offline, they followed every single best practice, and they still got drained. I'm going to break down exactly what happened, whether your wallet is at risk, and the 3 things you need to do today. So first, let me set the stage for anyone who's not super familiar. Coldcard is a hardware wallet made by a Canadian company called Coinkite. And when I say this is one of the most trusted wallets in all of Bitcoin, I mean that. Security researchers, hardware, Bitcoin minimalists, people who are dead serious about holding their own keys, these are the people who use Coldcard. It's air-gapped, signs transactions completely offline, and it's got a dedicated hardware random number generator built in. The thing was basically the gold standard of self-custody. So when I tell you that 89 million was just drained from the Coldcard wallets and counting, I want you to understand how big of a deal this is. This isn't some shady altcoin wallet. This is the device people moved to because they wanted maximum security. Okay, so here's what actually happened, and I'm going to break it down so that even if you're not super technical, you're going to completely get it. When you set up a hardware wallet, the single most important thing that the device does is generate your seed phrase. Those are either 12 or 24 words, and that's what controls your Bitcoin. The security of the entire wallet comes down to one thing. Those words are truly random. We're talking 128 bits of randomness. Think of it like a lottery machine that can pick from 340 undecillion combinations. Nobody, and I mean nobody, should be able to predict what it lands on. Coldcard has a dedicated chip called a TRNG, or True Random Number Generator, specifically for this. Separate hardware, physical randomness, completely unpredictable, except it wasn't using it. Back in March 2021, a developer pushed a firmware update version 4.0.0, and somewhere in that update, there was a bug. A single line of code, the device's firmware told its own random number generator to basically go to sleep and fall back to the software substitute called Yasmarang. Here's why that's catastrophic. Yasmarang isn't truly random. It generates numbers based on a few inputs, stuff like the chip's serial number and a system timer. And here's the kicker, that information is not secret. Any attacker who buys the same model of device can figure out the range of values those inputs could produce. Instead of 128 bits of randomness, that's 340 undecillion possibilities, you drop to roughly 40 bits. That sounds like a lot, but in crypto math terms, 40 bits is brute forcible, especially with modern hardware, and especially, and we'll come back to this in a little bit, with AI. So for over 5 years, 1,900 days to be exact, every Coldcard Mk2 and Mk3 owners who created their wallets after March 2021 was told their seed was completely secure, when in reality, it was a lot more guessable than anyone knew. Now, someone figured that out, and on Thursday night, between 1:31 and 1:56 UTC, that's like 9:30 Eastern time here in the United States where I'm at, an attacker ran what was basically a sweep operation. 500 wallets, 1,300 individual Bitcoin outputs, all drained in 3 block confirmations. 25 minutes, guys, that's it. It only took them 25 minutes. 562 BTC got consolidated into a single address that, as of right now, hasn't moved. Block, which is a Jack Dorsey company, their engineering team analyzed this in real time and traced the attack signatures across thousands of transactions. And this thing is still growing. The latest numbers I've seen are over 4,500 affected addresses with losses approaching $89 million, guys. One more thing, and this is wild. Bitcoin Magazine is reporting that AI was likely involved in the breach. The attacker may have used AI-accelerated computations to crack those weak keys at scale. That's a whole other layer to this story. But here's the thing, and this is the most important part before you start freaking out. Let's actually figure out if you are in the risk window, because not every Coldcard is affected. Let me break this down for you guys. The vulnerability was introduced in firmware 4.0.0, which shipped on March 17th, 2021. If you generated your seed on a Coldcard Mk2 or Mk3 running on any firmware from 4.0.0 through 5.0.3, you did not use the dice roll method. You are in the confirmed risk window. Mark 4Q and Mark 5, CoinKite says those are not affected by the specific exploit from Thursday night. Block's analysis agrees, though they note some nuances around the Mark IV that I'll link in the description. Here's the thing about the dice rolls. Coldcard has always had an option where you can manually roll at least 50 dice and enter those results to add your own physical randomness to the seed generation. If you do that, your seed was anchored to real-world unpredictability. An attacker can't model that. You're almost certainly safe. But if you just hit generate wallet, trusted the device, and you were on the Mark II or Mark III after March 2021, your seed phrases may be crackable right now by whoever is running this sweep. So this got me thinking, how does something like this compare to a wallet that I actually use and I have recommended in a bunch of videos in the past, which is Tangem? Because they're a very different device built on a very different set of philosophies, and I think it's worth breaking that down right now while it's still fresh. Let's start with the core issue that caused Thursday night's exploit, the random number generator. On Coldcard, the TRNG, the hardware chip that generates randomness, is a separate component, and the firmware that runs on the device that tells the chip what to do, which means if a developer pushed a bad firmware update, even accidentally, they can accidentally tell that chip to go to sleep. Hey guys, just wanted to interject really quick. If you guys are liking this video so far, go ahead and hit the like button and the subscribe button. If you guys are interested in trying to mine or earn crypto, use my referral links down below. There are discount codes associated with those referral links. They do help the channel out. All right, let's dive back on in. I'll see you guys in a second. And fall back to a weaker software substitute. That's exactly what happened in 2021. One firmware update, one bad line of code. 5 years of weakened seed generation. Now, here's where Tangem approaches this differently. Tangem uses what's called an EAL6+ certified source element. That's a common criteria security certification, level 6+, which is the same class of chip used in passports, government IDs, and SIM cards. The TRNG on a Tangem card is not a separate piece of hardware the firmware talks to. It is inside the secure element itself, and it's certified to the German BSI PTG.2 standard. The certification means that the randomness generation process was independently verified to be unbreakable under both normal and adversarial conditions. And here's the key. In Tangem's default seedless mode, your private key is generated through the chip and never leaves it. Not to the app, not to your phone, not to the cloud. It doesn't exist anywhere else. The chip samples physical randomness, thermal noise at the transistor level, quantum electronic effects, oscillator jitter, and conditions it, and produces a 256-bit of true entropy. That's the full mathematical strength of Bitcoin's elliptic curve cryptography. No firmware update running on the app side can touch the process. Now, and I want to be fair here, Coldcard has real advantages that Tangem doesn't. If you're a hardcore Bitcoin maximalist who wants to verify every line of code yourself, Coldcard is open source. It has a physical screen that shows you exactly what you're signing. It's completely air-gapped and has the dice roll option so you can inject your own physical randomness on top of the hardwares. For the most technical Bitcoin users, that level of control is irreplaceable. Coldcard's architecture isn't bad, but it's more complex, and complexity is where bugs live. Tangem's trade-off is simplicity. There's no screen, no buttons, no firmware you manually have to update, no seed phrase to write down and hide. And for most people watching this channel, especially anyone just getting into self-custody, that's actually a safer option in practice. Because the number one way people lose Bitcoin is not a firmware exploit. It's losing their seed phrase, or having it stolen, or typing it into a phishing site. Tangem eliminates that entire attack surface. So if you're watching this and you're thinking, I want to move off Coldcard, what do I use? Tangem is genuinely worth a look at. I use it. I've covered it on this channel, and I'll drop my referral link down below. But more importantly, given everything we just talked about, The architecture is fundamentally different in a way that makes this specific class of firmware introduced RNG vulnerability significantly harder to replicate. All right, let's talk about what to actually do. Don't panic, don't do something dumb, but do act. Step 1, figure out your exposure. When did you set up your Coldcard? If it was before March 2021, you're likely outside that window. After that date, on a Mark II or Mark III, keep going. Step 2, move your funds. If you're in the risk window, the safest thing you can do right now is send your Bitcoin to a new wallet with a fresh seed. If you have another hardware wallet that's not a Coldcard, a Trezor, a Jade, a Ledger, send your funds there. That's the cleanest option. If your only hardware wallet is a Coldcard, Bitcoin Magazine is recommending you generate a passphrase using at least 6 BIP-39 words chosen randomly, not picked by you, as a temporary measure that buys you time while you get your funds to a completely fresh setup. Step 3, update your firmware. CoinKite has released a patched firmware. Generating a new wallet after applying the patch is safe, but the patch does not fix your existing C phrase. That's why you move first. Step 4, tell someone. Seriously, a lot of people who own Coldcards set it up, put it in a drawer, and have no idea what's happening. If you know someone with a Coldcard, check in on them today. Now I want to zoom out for a second because there's a bigger conversation happening here. Coldcard CEO NVK initially came out and said there was no wallet-wide vulnerability, suggested the affected users may have imported a previously compromised seed. Block's engineering team basically said, we can't wait, and published their findings while the exploit was still actively draining wallets. That tension between don't cause panic and people are losing money right now is real. And I think how CoinKite handles the next few days is going to matter a lot. But here's my take. This is not a flaw in Bitcoin. The blockchain worked exactly as designed. This is a flaw in a specific product from a specific manufacturer in a specific firmware window. Self-custody is still the right call, but this is a reminder that every tool we use to self-custody is built by humans, and humans write bugs. Hardware wallets are still light years safer than keeping your coins on an exchange. Events like this are exactly why staying sharp and keeping up with firmware updates isn't optional. All right, guys, that's the Coldcard firmware exploit. What happened, why it happened, who's affected, and what to do right now. If this helped you out, go ahead and drop a like on this video. It seriously helps get this information in front of people who need it. Subscribe if you're new. I cover crypto, security, mining hardware, all of it. And let me know down in the comments below. Have you used Coldcard? Are you in the risk window? What's your plan? I want to know what you guys are thinking on this one. Stay safe out there, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out. Have a great rest of your day.